The victims are Mahida Kasim, 53, Helena Kasim, 25, Zahia Kasim, 25, Hanan Kasim, 25. A male subject was taken into custody at the scene without incident. This was a very traumatic scene for everybody involved, and our focus is on the family and our first responders. Our public safety team has extensive experience with crisis intervention, along with peer support for our first responders for the betterment of their mental health. At this time, I would like to turn this over to Mayor Glotz.
Thank you, Pat. Words can't describe how deeply saddened I am at this horrible tragedy. A mother and her 3 daughters are gone, murdered in an act of senseless domestic violence. The entire Tinley Park community is heartbroken at the loss of these 4 innocent women, and we grieve alongside the family, friends, and neighbors who love them. I want to commend our first responders who handled this very difficult situation with professionalism and compassion. It's difficult to process a senseless tragedy like this, especially for the first responders who are called on to deal with this situation as it's all unfolding. It's more important than ever that they have the mental health care that they need to process and deal with the terrible things that they have to see in their line of work. This is a difficult day and a stark reminder of how quickly domestic violence can escalate. The mother and her daughters are in our hearts and prayers. Thank you. Pat?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'd like to introduce Chief Tom Tilton for any police-related questions.
Good morning, everyone. I'll just say real briefly that this is, we're in the middle of a very complex investigation. We want to make sure that we dot all our I's and cross all our T's. So it's going to be very difficult for us to confirm any specifics for you today because we don't want to say anything that's going to negatively impact the investigation or impact the charging decision. One thing I do want to do is thank Sheriff Dart for his personnel that came out and helped our team process the crime scene. Very grateful for those resources. Several other agencies provided resources, and we're grateful for that as well. But we're very encouraged by the response of our police department, our fire department, and our emergency response community, and the efficiency and the thoroughness that our investigators have put into this investigation as it's ongoing. And I'll take any questions.
Where were the victims found in the house?
Well, once again, we don't want to be specific about any of the crime scene information. Once again, we're working very closely with the state's attorney, and we're making sure that we have all the information as specific as we can so they can make an accurate charging decision. So we don't want to impact that.
Where was the suspect found in the house?
The suspect was found approximately in relation to the victims.
Can you confirm that he is the person that called 911? And are you ready to tell his identity?
We're not able to confirm that right now as to who called 911.
What is the status of the suspect now?
We have a suspect in custody, and that's all I can really say.
Did he allow police officers in? Or did police officers?
Well, all I'll say about that is that we arrived on scene very quickly, within approximately 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and he was taken into custody without incident in about 1 minute and 20 seconds thereafter. So it was a very fast response, and I'd like to commend our fire personnel and our ambulance personnel as well, because they were there almost simultaneously. So we were prepared to intervene and render aid immediately.
Did all the victims live in that home?
Yes.
Have you had any previous contacts with this family?
I'm sorry?
Any previous contacts with this family?
No, there's no record of any police interaction with that house at all.
Was there a firearm?
I'm sorry?
A firearm? Was there a firearm?
No.
There was not a firearm?
I'm not aware that there's one. Let me just correct that.
I believe it was reported last night.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I don't want to confirm that.
Okay.
But the victims were shot and killed?
I'm sorry?
The victims were shot?
Yes.
Okay. But one suspect, or you're looking for more suspects?
We have one suspect in custody. I don't want to go any further with the investigative details.
Is the public at risk?
The public is not at risk. We made that very clear immediately after we intervened in the situation.
But you can confirm it was a family member, it was a father
We're not going to confirm it was a family member or it was a father at all. We're not confirming that pending the charging decision or any investigative activity.
So what makes it domestic violence if it's not a
Right.
relative?
Well, like I say, that's a good question, but I don't want to negatively impact any of the investigative activity or do anything that's going to impact
You
any of
guys
the
realize
charges.
that by saying domestic violence, you're pretty much in there confirming that. it's
No, I
the
understand,
same father.
I understand your question, but we're still, once again, we expect to have a firm decision later on in the afternoon or further in the week, and we don't want to say anything that will prejudice this. Want to make sure that, that the victims get the justice they deserve. We want to make sure that our investigation and the activities that we take in connection with that investigation are as complete and efficient as they can possibly be.
Any timetable on charges?
I don't want to rush any of that. We expect that we will have a charging decision in the near future, and that's all I want to say about that.
Anything that you can say about the motivation or what prompted this?
No, anything I would say at this point is speculation. We still have investigation to conduct. And so, like I say, one of the things that we want to make as a hallmark of the thoroughness of our investigation is that we dot all the i's and cross all the t's, and that we don't say anything that we haven't absolutely confirmed.
Chief, when was the last time your department had to respond to something like this?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear
When
you.
was the last time your department had to respond to something like this?
We have not responded to that location.
No,
Oh.
just a crime like this.
Oh, a crime like this? We haven't had any crimes like this in Tinley Park for forever, really. I mean, the last large event like this would have been Lane Bryant in 2008. We had a homicide a year or so ago, but of this scale, and not since Lane Bryant.
What does that do to your team when they come across a scene like this, when they're not used to that?
Well, they're professionals, and they're going to respond professionally, and they did so. We're extremely proud of our police officers and the way they handled it and the way they responded. This is a tragedy, but we can be encouraged, and our community can be encouraged by the speed, the professionalism, and the efficiency our first response community displayed. It's a credit to this department and to this village.
For the first responders, is there counseling that's being made available? I imagine that it's very traumatic for them.
We are making counseling available to our officers and our first responders, our fire community. We spend a lot of effort, a lot of time and effort in officer wellness and in the care of their mental health. So we're very fortunate that we have professionals on retainer that we can bring in and talk to our people that saw a really disturbing scene. And they handled it very well, and they handled it extremely professionally. It's very trying circumstances. It's a very, very complex thing to do. And it requires, to process that scene requires a tremendous focus on detail and thoroughness, and they handled it admirably, given the circumstances.
Were there any other witnesses or anyone else who arrived there other than police and?
That's a very good question, and I absolutely don't want to confirm anything like that until we get a final decision, and we'll announce that as soon as we get it.
It may have already been asked, Chief. The person who pulled the trigger in this incident, was that the person who called 911, do you believe?
We're not going to confirm anything like that.
What did the 911 call say to the dispatch person?
I don't want to get into the transcript of the 911 call.
Could you talk about the trauma that the first responders may have experienced when they showed up to the scene last night?
Well, the trauma that they experience it's a disturbing scene. It's a tragedy, and certainly we don't want to get into the details of that, but it's troubling to come across that tragic loss of life, and it's troubling to process and gather the evidence. It's not something that you would think people would ordinarily want to do, but it has to be done, and we have to provide justice for our victims. So we want to make sure that they're as professional and as thorough as they can be, and then once that's done, then we want to make sure that their mental health is cared for, and we're working very hard to make sure that those resources are available to them today.
I just want to ask again for clarity on a gun being recovered, because in the press release last night, it was stated that a gun was recovered. Why has that changed?
Oh, we have recovered a weapon.
Can you talk about the type of weapon at all, or how the victim?
I'd rather not right now.
Were these victims killed the same day that
Well, it's a very obvious question, but once again, I don't want to talk about the timing or anything that impacts any of the investigative activity. All of the timing and all of the things that happen within that sphere of interaction is just something that we don't want to discuss.
Do we believe the victims were at all, before being killed, conscious at the time? Were they asleep when they were shot and killed?
I don't want to that would be all speculation at this time. Like I say, everybody needs to remember that this is an ongoing investigation. There are still things that we're doing to complete the investigation. This is a very complex process. It takes a long, long time. So as long as we focus on being as thorough and as careful as we can in gathering the information, we look to a successful conclusion.
At this time, we're still investigating on whether or not these victims were actually killed yesterday morning or not.
I'm sorry?
But at this time, it's safe to say you're still investigating whether or not these victims
It would appear that's the case, but I don't want to confirm anything that we really have to be careful about the way that we disclose information about the investigation.
What level of cooperation, if any, are you getting from the suspect?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
What level of cooperation are you getting from the suspect?
I don't want to talk about whether the suspect's cooperating with us or not. Once again, that's prejudicial to the investigation.
Is there anyone who's an expert in domestic violence who may want to talk to us about warning signs or anything like that? Because if you've never had contact with this family prior, people are going to be thinking what to look out for.
Right, we will, do you want to we have some people here who can speak to that, and I'll step aside so they can do so. Thank you.
Hi,
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here.
thank you.
Could you say and spell your names?
Sure. My name is Itedal Shalabi, Itedal. Last name is Shalabi, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Arab American Family Services.
And Pam Kostecki, PAMKOSTECKI, and I'm the executive director of the Crisis Center for South Suburbia here in Tinley Park. So first, I just wanted to start with what makes it a domestic crime? So that was the question that was asked. And what makes it domestic is when persons within the household lose their lives to someone else in the household. So that's what domestic violence is. When violence occurs inside of a household, whether related or not related to one another, it's the domestic side of it that makes it domestic violence. It's not unusual that these situations progress. If this was, in fact, domestic violence, it's not unusual for these situations to progress to the point of taking a life. It is, when there's a firearm involved, there's a 500% more chance that someone is going to lose their life with domestic violence going on in the home.
And I think for myself, as Arab American Family Services, we do know that the family is of Arab descent, of Palestinian descent. They are Muslim. And at this point, this has nothing to do with Islam or any other religion. This is about power and control. This is about gender-based violence. And this is, at this point, for me, in whether it's this case or any other case, is that this is not something that the community condones or the religion condones. And we have been talking and working about domestic violence for the past 21 years of our operation. We started in 2001, and we're currently still progressing and working. And so as Pam said, this is about family violence and the power of one person over other family members.
You were able to mention a little bit about their background. Are you familiar at all with the family and what words that you have been able to speak with any family members? What have those discussions been about?
And I am really going to respect what the chief of police have said and not disclose any information at this point, because a lot of speculation, a lot of things have been coming back and forth. And out of respect for the family and where we're at, and out of respect for the confidentiality of the family, we're just going to sit here and say that we're here responding to this incident together. As both organizations, we're part of a coalition, the Illinois Domestic Violence Coalition. We're here to say, working together, making sure that our community is safe, making sure that the responders are safe, making sure that internally, if we can answer and support the responders in what they've seen and heard, and it's the right time for them to ask, we're here to support. But just because there's not a lot of information, we don't want to speculate and give information that could be misleading as well.
And if anybody out there is experiencing violence
Yes.
in the home, please reach out to us. We have a 24-hour hotline, 708-429-7255. SAFE is the acronym for the last 4 digits of the phone number. So please, please, please reach out and get help before it's too late.
And Arab American Family Services also has a 24-hour hotline crisis, and the phone number is 708-945-7600. And we are bilingual staff, so you will be spoken to in Arabic, and you will be speaking to someone who can help you and assist you. And we are reaching out to the community. If anyone needs to process this, anyone needs any assistance, to please reach out to any organization. Both of our organizations are here and committed to working with the families and the community and anyone who needs the assistance.
We're also happy to come and provide education.
Absolutely.
To any organizations or groups that would like further education on the signs of domestic violence and how to get help.
I know you can't talk about the specifics of this case, but typically when you have something that is tragic and awful as this, were there steps that likely led up to this, or could something like this happen just without any warning?
Typically, it doesn't happen with no warning. If it's domestic violence, it's building, it's progressing. It starts off with, I mean, like Idadel said, it is all power and control. So it is someone taking power and control over your life. They are forbidding you from seeing other people. They are telling you how to dress. They are beginning with small interventions of physical violence that eventually escalate into taking a life.
So the coercive control is there in any culture, in any religion. It's about
Any
the power and
socioeconomic
control.
class,
Absolutely.
yes.
So it's little things that you start feeling, well, you can go meet this one, or you can go here, or you can't drive, or you can't do this. And it just keeps escalating until the power and control. And when that individual feels he or she has lost the power over those individuals, that's when we know it's going to become violent. And this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy for any community, but this is a tragedy for a community that doesn't talk about domestic violence as much as we need to, and to address it as much as we should. And so we are hoping that we can prevent other incidents from happening if the community also reaches out and starts asking for help.
I also just want to say that we have a really great relationship with both the police department and the village of Tinley Park. They have been incredibly responsive and supportive. We are always, every month we come to police roll calls and we talk to them about how to intervene at domestic violence situations that they get called out to. And so they are incredibly supportive and responsive. We just couldn't be more grateful. And unfortunately, tragedies like this can happen a lot of times because people aren't reaching out.
And I think for us at Arab American Family Services, we have been going out to police roll calls. And I think what we would like to do is to continue to do those things. The culture is a little bit different. The understanding of the dynamics is a little bit different. And what we want to do is be able to give the police officers the skills and enhance their understanding of how to work within the community. But if community members don't reach out, whether they're Arabic, whether they're mainstream, whether they're Latino, if the community isn't able or hindered to reaching out and asking for assistance, then that is something that we also need to continue to do that work in the community itself. But we're here, and thank you. I think you've done a wonderful job of how you handle this and how you're continuing to handling this. But we would love for all police departments as well to accept the invitation when we do reach out to them.
Is there a particular way that the Arab American community would expect an approach or a special approach that you would recommend to reach out to the community when it comes to these domestic violence situations?
I think domestic violence is an issue that a lot of communities don't know how to address. It's a family, it's an intimate issue that you involve yourself within the family. The dynamics of the family is different, obviously. But the way we would love to build, as Arab American Family Services, the way we would love to build is have the doors open to us, have the doors to come and educate the police officers of what to expect, of who to reach out for.
But a lot of times it's shame.
Exactly.
I mean, it's shame in any culture. You know, it's people feel shame. That's why they don't come forward. They're afraid to say that, you know, someone who I love is hurting me.
It's shame, and also for us, it's immigration. For us, it's also the language is a barrier. For us, it's also I don't want to leave the situation. I just want my partner to get the help. So there's a lot of dynamics, but to assess a situation of what's going to become a violent one and what's not going to become a violent one, we have to be able to be working with that family. And both organizations, we all know, our advocates work with victims, making sure that they have a safety plan. What do you do? How do you de-escalate a situation? Where do you reach out for help? What are the signs of someone becoming more aggressive and more violent, and how do you recognize those signs? And so our advocates who are also bilingual ensure that all of our women who come to us, all of our clients for domestic violence know those things and know what to do and not to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our briefing. If we have any updates, we most likely will not, we haven't scheduled anything today. If it warrants that we will go on camera, we'll put out another release to let you know that. So we'll provide any updates via email or press release on that. Okay, thank you.